this part of the program for the Ramaz Tikkun Leil Shavuot. Um, and as many of you know or may know, it's a pretty popular custom to hang flowers and have bouquets of flowers in the shuls and in our homes for this holiday. And so, as Ms. Felmerick said, for the next few minutes, I sort of wanted to do some more, hands-on learning, experiential learning activities. So we'll make some flowers together. And if you don't have any of the supplies, that's fine. You can just watch. And in about, a few minutes later, I will talk also about the Torah aspect of, the behind this custom of decorating our homes and our synagogues with flowers and greenery. And I tried to have some crafts that are, with some supplies that you can easily have around your house. And they're pretty simple. So even if you just watch now, you're welcome to, it should be something that you can really replicate on your own time. Okay, so the first that I wanted to do, and for this part, I need to shift the camera to my hand, is with pipe cleaners and tissue paper. And I guess I'll show you a finished product first. This is actually a bouquet of flowers that I made a while ago. And I actually think it looks really pretty. So take some tissue paper and you're gonna make a circle, like big circles, maybe like the size of your hand, although really it's up to you. And they don't have to be an exact circle. And you can use any color that you want. Sometimes tissue paper is actually a little hard to cut. You have to like hold it straight. Okay, so I have a circle. I have one blue circle. Okay, and then I'm going to take a red, and I'm going to start a red circle. And actually what I find is that it's easier to make it in half. I take a square, and then once I have a square shape, it's easier to make a circle. Okay, so now I'm making a circle. Okay, so now I have a red circle, blue circle. I'll do one more. I'll do a green. Okay, so now I have a green. I actually have two of them. Okay, so now that's actually the hard part. And what you do now is put them in a stack. Okay, so you have the green, I have a red, I have another green. Like you could do patterns. I'll put a blue in at the end. And that's really the hardest part. And then what you do is stick a pipe cleaner, and you can use green, so like we're trying to copy the, a flower, and you stick the pipe cleaner sort of as much as you can to the middle, so it goes through it, and tissue paper is pretty thin, and then just curl the pipe cleaner a little bit. You just let the tip through, and I like to just fold it in a little bit, just so it's not pointy, and then just scrunch it up. And if anyone has any little kids at home, or you want to feel like a little kid, like this is something that really all ages can do, just scrunch it up. And you don't want to do it too tight. You want to just scrunch it so it gives sort of like a petal look. And here is your flower. And you can, so here's the flower. You can make it as tight as you want. Right, that's like a little tighter. You can loosen it up a little bit. And as you can see, you can use all different colors. And I'm just going to stick it in my bouquet. So that was one tissue paper flower making. And another one is with a paper towel and food coloring with water, which also should be pretty simple items that you have around your house. And this is just a done one that's already done. For some reason in the camera it looks a little bit faded. You can sort of see it looks like a tie-dye. I'm like, how pretty is that hanging on your wall? Okay, so how do you do that? So you want to take a paper towel. The paper towel should be square. I know sometimes paper towels are more like they can be rectangle. If you want to make it a square or have it in a square, like actually mine's two rectangles together. I just didn't split the perforated line. And then you're going to fold it into a triangle. So now everyone triangle. Okay, I think this is an equal arrow. Then you're going to fold it again. Okay, so again, it's a triangle. And then again. So that was, I think, 4 times. 1, 2, 3 times. Okay? And then, this is sort of, just to make it look a little more circular, the part of the flower where it's already cut, meaning not the folded side, but the edge part, you could either make it circular or you could make it, a design, like a zigzag design. You can sort of see how I'm zigzagging my scissors, that it's not just a straight line anymore. You see it. You can make it more triangular. Now, don't open it up. What you're going to do now is take some water and food coloring, and I already have pre-made. So I have, this is for later, I have a green, which is really just water and food coloring. I'll show you in this container. Here's blue food coloring, a little bit of water. Let's see, 3 drops. Mix it together. So now my water is blue. And I have a blue, I have green, I have pre-made yellow, and now this is purple. I'm not sure how well you can see it. Okay, so now picking back up our triangle, right, the paper towel that's still folded, and then just dip it in. Dip in whichever colors you want. I did two edges yellow. I'm going to do a little bit green over here. I'll try to do, once you start getting some wet, then it gets a little bit harder how to get the other colors without really mixing it. Blue. This side, folding it in just a tad. So it's a little wet, it's not super soggy. And now, open it up. Water makes it a little hard to unfold. Here we go. You want to be careful not to rip it too hard because you don't want it to rip. I'm going to lift up my camera now so you can see it a little better. And now here, again, I think the lighting's not so great. The colors are a lot brighter for me. But you can see, look how pretty that is. And because I cut it on the side, you now see it, sort of looks more like a petal and more of a design. And because it's wet, I would recommend just put it on the counter or someplace just to dry. It'll dry in maybe a half hour or so. And then it's a paper towel, and you can, as I said, isn't that pretty now? You can hang it up or just look at it, or you could use it, I guess. Okay, I'm gonna put this down to dry. Okay. Um, okay, I will do maybe one or two more, and then we'll do part of the Torah part. I'm just moving the water to the side. Okay, and this also try items that you have around the house. Fork and a knife. And I actually have to say I found this on, I think it was Pinterest, sort of, parenting and what to do things for the spring unit with your little kids at home. So this is just sort of a sample that I did. But I'll show you how to do it. So you take some paint. So I'll take some green. So I'll have that for the stem. You can make it as petals. And we'll make a red flower. Whoop. Okay. That's a lot. And then we'll do purple. Okay. So I'll just show you how to do it. So you take your fork. Okay. So you take your fork. Actually, may have some pink left on it. And you dip it in. You can see it. With the scissors. So you dip it in to the paint. But you want like the whole fork to be in. Right? Like you see, like as much of it's in. And then you take a piece of paper, and then you just press it down. Make another one over here. And you just put it down. So now it's sort of made like a fork-like shape. I'm going to put the fork down, and then I'll pick up the knife. And the knife's a similar idea. You just put it in the paint. And then you just tap it on. For some reason it looks like a fingerprint, but actually, you know what? Those little shapes actually make it look like the veins of the tree, of a leaf. You can do it like that. I'll do one more since I already have the purple one out. I'll do one more so I can show you how to do it. I'm just wiping off the paint from my fork. So again, you just dip the fork in the paint. This paint all over the fork. And you just make it, just pat it down. Came out really nice. Okay. And then you put some of the paint on the knife. Not so much green paint left. So you got the idea. Just, should have put more green on the rest of it, but here we go. Now I have some nice flowers. You can even actually, hang this up in the kitchen as it goes with the kitchen theme, but it gives this summery look. Okay, so those are just a few crafts for the springtime, for the holiday of Shavuot. So I hope you enjoyed that, the Flora part of this time. But as the title is, it's Flora and Torah. That's the way I want to pronounce it, so that at least you can get a little rhyme. So, as I said, it's a really popular custom to hang flowers and bouquets of flowers in our shuls, in our synagogues, in our homes. And so, what I want to do now for the next few minutes is I want to explore the meaning of this custom. And there's a lot of literature on this, and I just want to share a few ideas. Sort of like a hodgepodge of where this custom comes from, the meaning behind the custom. I'm just going to share some thoughts on that, and hopefully have a takeaway to enter the holiday. So really, before I even explain where the origins and the meanings of this custom comes from, I actually want to begin with the opposition. The Vilna Gaon is opposed to this custom, and his explanation is that he says that this is actually a Christian act to place trees in a house of worship. And so, therefore, because the Christians do it, this is something that we as Jews cannot do. And there's actually some discussion whether it was actually originally a Jewish custom, a Jewish tradition, and then it was the Christians who copied it from us. But the Vilna Gaon says, nonetheless, even if it was originally a Jewish custom, because it's now associated with another religion, we have to stop. It's considered Chukat HaGayim. The laws and practices, customs of the non-Jews, and therefore we cannot and should not be doing and practicing that custom. But in any event, the Vilna Gaon is very well known for opposing this custom. So I just want to start off with that, and now we'll talk about all those who talk about the popularity and the meaning behind the custom. So when did this custom begin? Why are we hanging flowers? Why am I spending this night making paper flowers and decorating my home with painted flowers? Maybe tomorrow I'll go to the flower store and buy flowers for my table. Actually, my shul, which is not open, unfortunately, for the holiday, the youth directors organized that different families and different people would create crafts, and they hung it around the gates of the synagogue, and they hung it up today. So at least when we walk by the neighborhood, the shul is still decorated with flowers in some sense. So where did this all come from? So the Maharil was Rabbi Yaakov ben Moshe Halevi Molin, who lived in Germany in the beginning of the 1400s. His exact date is 1365 to 1427 for those history people out there. And the Maharil was one of the earliest sources to mention this custom. And he writes that there was a custom to spread spices from plants and flowers on the floor of the shul in honor of the holiday of Shavuot. And others add on to this idea to decorate the houses with flowers as well. And I actually feel that that's actually really meaningful to me, because especially now where many shuls are not open, I find meaning in decorating my home in what I would do in my shul. Now, there's actually an earlier source from Targum Sheni on Megillas Esther, which is a commentary dating back to the time period of the Gaonim. And this Targum Sheni, this commentary on Megillas Esther, explains that when Haman complained to Achashverosh, and I know we're not thinking about Purim now, we're on a long holiday, but let's try to think back to just a few months ago, when Haman wanted to kill and wipe out the Jewish people, and he approached the king Achashverosh, and he wants to destroy them, to annihilate them. And the Targum Sheni says that one of the complaints that Haman said to Achashverosh was that they throw tapuchim off the roof of the shul, and that people would collect them on the holiday of Shavuot. So apparently there's this old minhag, as I said, already dating back to the commentary in the time of the Gaonim, are quoting some sort of tradition, and they're associating that with the Purim story, that specifically at the time of Shavuot, the Jews were throwing some fruits. And so this is an old minhag that an old custom people would do. And this may actually seem a little strange to us, but it's not hard to see how a tradition of throwing apples and maybe other fruits could have developed into trees, greenery, flowers, and not just throwing them, but actually putting them on the floor or hanging them on the walls of the shul. Now, there are many other sources, that draw meaning to this custom from biblical texts. So, for example, the first thing that may have come to mind, maybe when you even saw the title of the shiur of Flora and Torah, you said, there's going to be something about the flowers blossoming on Har Sinai, right? Then there's the Medrash that talks about when the Matan Torah happened, when we were receiving the Torah, the holiday of Shavuot. Hashem made that Har Sinai, the mountain, was colored with flowers and had this fragrant smell from the flowers and greenery. And the Medrash says that when Bnei Yisrael received the Torah in the desert, we have to remember this was in the desert, that Bnei Yisrael stood at the foot of the mountain. And where they stood, it was filled with greenery and fragrant flowers. And when Moshe went up to receive the first set of luchos from Hashem, the pasuk says in Shmos, the ish lo ya'ala imach. Hashem tells Moshe, no other man should go with you. Moshe, you're the only one who's coming up to the mountain to receive the Torah, to receive the luchot, to receive the Ten Commandments. V'gam ish al yirabchal hahar, v'gam hatzon v'habakar al yariu el mul hahar hahu. But Hashem says, no one else should come with you. No one else should be seen on the mountain, and neither shall the flocks and herds graze at the foot of this mountain. This is a quote specifically from Sefer Shmos, when Matan Torah is actually happening. And so because the pasuk says, Hatzon ubakar al yareu, even the cattle and sheep should not come close to the mountain, that they should not eat the grass. And this implies that in the middle of the wilderness, in the middle of the desert, there was grass on and near Har Sinai. And so sort of commemorating the experience and the physical environment of receiving the Torah, we replicate that in our homes and in our shuls, which is how and where we celebrate the holiday. Now, another explanation is given by the Alshech, who was Rabbi Moshe Alshech, a rabbi and biblical commentator who lived in Turkey, exact dates is 1508 to 1593. And he writes that a story in Bereshis Parak Lamed, in chapter 30, this narrative, he says, happens on Shavuot. It's a very interesting narrative. Sometimes we skip over it or just run through it. So it's a little bit of a strange story. So in this narrative, Rachel, Yaakov's beloved wife, is childless, and she desperately wants a child. And she desperately wants to give a child to Yaakov, who loves her and who she loves. And she gives Yaakov her maidservant Bilhah, who gives birth to two sons, Dan and Naphtali. But Rachel still wants a child of her own. And so then in the next part of this parak, Reuven is described as he's in the field, and he finds dudaim. He finds this plant that's often translated as mandrakes, and it seems to represent fertility. And he gives it to his mother, Leah. And Rachel actually asks Leah for it and says, can I have it? I want to have a child. And so Leah gives it to Rachel in exchange for Yaakov sleeping in her tent that night. Right? You could imagine Yaakov had 4 wives, so different nights he's spending with different wives, giving attention to his different wives, and he spent more time with the wives that he preferred, and Rachel was his most beloved wife. And so Leah says, let Yaakov sleep in my tent, I'll give you the dudaim. I'll give you these mandrakes that you want. And the Alshech says that it was on this night when Yaakov went into Leah's tent that Yisachar was conceived. And this actually, he also says, was the night of Shavuot. And we may also know, jumping a few chapters in Bereshit, that in Birchat Yaakov, when Yaakov blesses his sons, he blesses Yisachar and Zevulun as partners, and he blesses them together, and we sort of understand those two characters, that Yisachar learns Torah, while Zevulun, he's captain on the ship, he's a sailor, he's the businessman who provides for Yisachar, who's sitting and learning. And so the further obvious connection is that Yisachar, who sort of seems to be learning a lot of Torah, and that seems to be a huge trait of who he grows up to be, and so that sort of seems to be somewhat of a logical connection between Yisachar and Shavuot, which is the holiday that we receive the Torah. But as I started off with this Alshech, and I said, we're going to talk about an interesting and maybe strange story in the Torah, I'll admit that the connection to Shavuot is pretty weak. And even reading the Alshech and deciding to talk about it, share it with you today, I still have the question of, why is this a narrative? Why is this a story that maybe is in the Torah at all? And why is it something that we should be remembering on Shavuot? Because this whole narrative of the dudaim, which is the context for the conception of Yisachar, is strange. And so a little bit of a takeaway for you to think about for the next few hours, the next few days. So to think about, is there a deeper connection with this story in Bereshit and Shavuot? That's sort of a challenge that I'm giving to you. Now, there's another medrash in Vayikra Rabbah 23:3, which describes the Jewish people's acceptance of the Torah with the following mashal. A king had a field full of fruit, and he left it to a farmer to tend the field, and everything turned to weeds, thorns and thickets. And the king strolled through his field, and he found one rose among the thorns. And he smelled it, and it brought him such satisfaction and such happiness. And so the nimshal is as follows. So too the world was so beautiful when Hashem created it, until there were many acts by the people who made the world a world of thorns and thicket and doing wrong things. And then the Jewish people came along, and we accepted the Torah, and this was like the rose among the thorns in the mashal. And in this way, the flowers are a remembrance of our relationship with Hashem and our place among the other nations and our national identity to serve Hashem, and that we are His chosen people to learn Torah and to keep the Torah, and also to be an or lagayim, to be that rose among the thorns, to be that light unto the nations. And the last idea I want to share with you is the Mishnah in Rosh Hashanah in 16a. It says that on Shavuot, the fruits of the trees are judged, whether they will grow and give good fruit. So Hashem judges the earth and determines the abundance of fruits that the trees will produce for the coming year. And so simply understood, the trees are placed in our homes and our shuls to remind us to daven for the trees and for their fruits and for the upcoming year. Now, the Sifsei Chain, which is a sefer written by Rabbi Shmuel Kraus, who lived in Williamsburg not long ago, and he was a mashpia for Satmar, like he would, leading them in teaching thought and philosophy into the Satmar community. And what's actually interesting is that in the Satmar Hasidic community, they actually don't really get into Hasidic philosophy and Hasidic thought. They just do what they do. Like, this is how we practice, and there's not much of the philosophy, and they don't study the philosophy of Hasidus. And so Rabbi Shmuel Kraus wrote this sefer called the Sifsei Chain, which is a sefer of introduction, of hakdamos, just of the basic concepts of Hasidus. And he wrote it very simply, and he elaborated with other sources that use those ideas. And then after he passed away, his sons compiled and printed essays that he wrote on different holidays. And he goes through minhagim and different ideas and concepts that are found in Hasidus and in Hasidus thought. So in Hasidus, they understand this Mishnah in a very different way. And it's not meant to be taken literally. And it's going to be a little bit Kabbalistic, so I'm going to throw around some terms that I will explain it as best as I understand it. And in Hasidus thought, this Mishnah, that this is the day that the fruits of the trees are being judged, is that this also applies to the souls of the Jewish people, which are called pirot, which are called fruit. Since our neshamot, since our souls grow and are born out of Hashem's tree, which is personified as the Kabbalistic sphere of Tiferet, which is also known as the Gufa D'Ilana, the body of the tree. And so the Torah is also called Tiferet, because all of the Tiferet, which is translated as understood as glory of the Jewish people, comes from learning Torah and acting according to Torah's ways. And it is in that merit that we're able to be one with Hashem. Now, from the means of Tiferet, the Neshamos, our souls sprout, and they are what's called as Malchus. And just like the leaves and flowers and the fruits come out of the tree trunk, so too we are only able to sprout from Hashem and have the radiance of being the glorified chosen people if we learn and keep the Torah. And we actually see this idea echoed in the Zohar, in Bahaloscha 73a, which says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu va'oraisa v'Yisrael chad. Hashem, the Torah, and Bnei Yisrael are one. And it is through the Torah that Bnei Yisrael and Hashem become one. The Torah is this vehicle for our relationship with Hashem. And this is actually one of my favorite quotes that my father actually has above his desk in his study, from the Rogatchover Gaon, who was Rabbi Yosef Rosen, a prominent Torah scholar in the early 20th century in Poland, where he says, there's a quote from him, which says, when I pray, I talk to God. And when I learn Torah, God talks to me. That the Torah is this medium for this connection and to have this unity with Hashem. Now, furthermore, the Sifsei Chain explains why Shavuot is only one day, and in 2 days in Chutz, and not 7 days, like the other two Shalosh Regalim. We know Sukkot, Pesach, and Shavuot are the Shalosh Regalim. Sukkot and Pesach are 7 days. But what about Shavuot? Why is Shavuot just 1 day? And the Sifsei Chain says that it's only 1 day to illustrate this idea that because because of the Torah, they were able to cleave to Hashem and be one with Hashem. Now, the Sifsei Change was a parallel to Rosh Hashanah and Shavuot. On Rosh Hashanah, Hashem created net, and it was the sixth day of creation. And therefore, we are supposed to introspect our behaviors and actions, since that is the day of the creation of the physical world. And we should behave similarly on Shavuot, the day of Matan Torah, which is the day that we received the Torah, which was when a spiritual world, so to speak, was formed. And therefore, it's on Shavuot that our neshama, our spiritual side, should be exercised, and we should have introspection to look and to see if they're keeping his mitzvahs or not, and keeping them properly. And so this is the reason why we hang up flowers in the shuls and in our homes, that we want all of our locations to remind us that our neshamos are being judged, that how our pirot, how our fruits, how our neshamas, how our spirituality will be expressed in the coming year, what our hasmada, what our diligence of learning Torah will be like, and if we will be able to bask in Hashem's glory. Now, just to end, another 2 minutes. For every Yom Tov, there is a discussion of the character of the day. And there's 2 categories, lachem and lahashem. Lachem, for you. Lahashem, for God. There's 2 categories for every holiday. Lachem, meaning for us to keep the holiday, that the characteristic of the day is something for us. And then there's a category of lahashem, that the day is really all for Hashem. And the focus is on Hashem. Now, with each Yom Tov, there's a discussion in the Gemara about what's the day about. And it literally goes through all the holidays. Is it lachem? Is it lahashem? Is it both? Now, ultimately, I'll jump to the end. The Gemara passes that for all holidays, we say every Yom Tov has both aspects, a lahashem aspect and a lachem. So let's talk about Shavuot. What about Shavuot? And what's interesting is that not only that the fact that I just said in the Gemara it says that every holiday has lachem lahashem, but the Gemara actually says that everyone agrees that Shavuot has a lachem aspect to it. And that's so surprising, because obviously Shavuot has an aspect of lahashem, for Hashem, because the day is all about to share one idea with you. There's another medrash about Matan Torah that describes the scene when Moshe goes up to Har Sinai to receive the Luchot and the Torah from Hashem. That when he is there, the Malach, the angels come in and they try to prevent this. And they ask Hashem, how can you give Moshe the Torah? They ask, how can you give your precious holy Torah to man who will not follow it properly and who are going to make mistakes? And so the way Hashem responds, that he turns to Moshe and he says, Moshe, how are you going to defend yourself? What do you have to say? And so Moshe turns to the Malachim, he turns to the angels and he says, okay, what's one of the mitzvahs in the Torah? Honor your parents. Angels, do you have parents? Can you fulfill this? No. What about another mitzvah? Lo tachmod, right? Don't covet, don't desire. Don't desire something that's not yours. Malachim, angels, do you have feelings of desires, of jealousy that you can or cannot control? Nope. You're angels. You don't have emotion. And so this medrash, I think, answers that question of lachem. That this medrash explains that the idea that the mitzvot are for human people to keep and to strive to observe it, because we have the abilities and the emotions and the life that's relevant for us to keep it all. And so this medrash answers how Shavuot is lachem. That Shavuot has its lachem aspect because keeping the Torah itself is lachem, because it's for us. Only us humans can keep it. And even the lahashem aspect, the davening, the learning Torah, we try to beautify by having flowers around our shuls, flowers around our homes, making the shuls and our homes look beautiful and nice. And so I hope that with some of the art that we created helps fulfill the holiness and enjoyment of the holiday. Thank you so much for joining me. Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach. Thank you so much, Racheli. Thank you so much. Okay, everyone. We're going to take a few moments break before our next session, starting at 9:10. Oh my goodness, the day has just flown by. Our next session will be at 9:10. with Rabbi Ilan Schimmel, The Perplexing Nature of the Book of Ruth. Feel free to stick around or hop